Welcome to the episode of Sitting Courtside. Today is not last week, even though you could convince yourself that it was. Yes, I am in a car again, but we're doing it for you guys, the people. Had to move some scheduling things around, which means I'm in a car because I have fatherly duties to do. We're talking college basketball today. Kyle, what are we talking about?
Before this, I just want to know, it looks like it's really raining where you're at currently in that
It
back
is.
window.
It is. Yeah. It's very much raining where I'm at. I'm a little concerned that you guys can probably hear the raindrops hitting my car right now, but if you can't, great. But yeah, we're doing special things here at Sitting Courtside, guys. Special things.
All right, so what we're going to get into today, we're going to do it in different sections or segments of the show. First, the one's going to be overreaction or fair to say. So we're just going to talk about some things that have happened early on in the season that kind of contradict what we thought at the beginning of the season or kind of different than what we said. See if we
Yep.
believe them or not. Then we'll move into what teams impressed us or what team impressed us so far, what team didn't impress us so far. And then, of course, go into some future games this coming week. But before we go anywhere, I'm not going to take this down too much of a somber note, but I just want to give a shout out to my grandpa. Everyone knows him as grandpa, so I'll just leave it as that. He's doing a little bad health wise right now. I know he
Oh,
listens to the show, so I just want to give a shout out to him. He's getting better. Hopefully, it keeps trending that way, but I want to give a shout out to grandpa.
all
So,
right.
love
Shout
you,
out,
grandpa.
Grandpa. Shout out, Grandpa. We're gonna have a winning week just for you.
Yes. Perfect. And speaking of winning weeks, really need one because I'm 7-14-0 right now in the sitting courtside picks.
So I'm 11-9, and if you could just take away the first day of the season and last Saturday, I'm 11-2.
Okay, yeah. So you're on a roll. You're on
It's
fire.
yeah. Saturday was bad. 0 for
Yeah.
4. It
Yeah.
was not great.
So here's how it's going for me is on the podcast last time I went 2-0, but then the spread on that over under the UAB game was 14 points more than I thought it was. There was
Yikes.
100 points scored in the first half. So I should have went with the over, but I went with the under on my Twitter account and it was wrong. So I should have just stuck to my guns, trying to stick to my guns from here on out.
It's crazy. Speaking of crazy points, did you see the UCF FAU game? I think it was last night or 2 nights ago.
I did not see that one now.
Final score was 192.
Oh my
I
goodness.
was shocked, shocked by that total. I was like, if you took the over in that game, it was over in the first half. It
Yeah,
was crazy.
that's like a bad NBA score. Like they had like all the 48 minutes to play in that game.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the first section or segment. It's going to be overreaction or fair to say. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a statement, tell me if it's overreaction or if you believe in this right now, and then go into some analysis on it. Okay.
Got it.
All right. First one is we were very wrong about Kansas. They're 3-0, and they are the best and most legit team in the nation. What do you think about that?
Never heard of them. Who is that?
Never, never heard of them. So you're not buying it one bit.
Yeah. No, uh I think we still need to someone needs to still prove to me that we don't just go by default to Connecticut. Like
Yeah.
UConn back to back. We talked about the first episode. Like until they stumble, I'm going to keep saying it's UConn. However, I don't want to ignore all the other quality teams that are out there. You have Alabama, you have Houston, you have Auburn, you have all those teams. However, if we're just going off of quality wins, you got to put the Zags up there too after what they did to Baylor.
Yeah, definitely. And so, what Kansas has done so far this season, just kind of want to throw this on there because we kind of have talked bad about them all season so far. They beat UNC 92-89. That was at home. They beat Michigan State in the Classic 77-69. But I agree, it's an overreaction. Michigan State is not a top team. They have a top name. They're just not a top team. And they beat UNC in a game at Fall Gallon where UNC actually made a comeback and was leading the second half.
Yeah.
So they actually played both Creighton and Duke in the next coming 2.5 or a week and a half. I'm calling they actually lose both of those games. So I'm saying it's
Ooh.
a big overreaction to say that they're good. I think they lose to both Duke and Creighton.
Okay. Okay.
All right, let's move to the next one. I bring this one up is because I know we both talked about it on our long
Yep.
shot here.
Yep.
Ryan Kalkbrenner, though, shouldn't have been a long shot to win Player of the Year. He should have been a favorite for us for Player of the Year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's just an early season one for us. We
Hmm.
actually said I said I was going to make him my dark horse. You did,
Hmm.
so we both were on that. That's great. He's absolutely doing everything that we thought he could do and more. If you remember, I said my only hesitation was could he continue shooting well from three? He definitely has.
He definitely has.
So kudos to us.
Yep. Yep. And so, for those that don't know exactly what he's done so far, through 2 games, yes, bad opponents, but through 2 games, he's scoring 37 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, 3 blocks per game, shooting 90% from the field, 92% from the free throw line, and as you mentioned, hit the three. He hasn't missed one yet this year, so
Yeah,
he is absolutely on fire in every way. And I agree. I think this is one that I'm buying. Obviously, very early on, but I think their team is like a only a big three, so they only have 3 guys they really go to. So the stats are always going to be there. And the
yeah,
other 2 good players on his team are guards. So I think they're always going to get him the ball in the post. The Big East isn't loaded. I think I mean, it's a longer shot that he wins, but I think his odds have went from long shot to like maybe top 5 or so to win the
yeah,
player of the year.
100%.
All right, the last one on this. We chose the wrong team in the Calipari move. We kind of chose
Yeah.
Kentucky as our our long shot. Or we chose Arkansas as our long shot. I think Kentucky is the legit national contender. Overreaction, or fair to say?
I think that's fair. I think that was a huge, huge win for Big Blue Nation. It was very impressive. It did make me more interested now in how they're going to fare in a very competitive SEC.
Yep.
However, I want to flip this question on you after you give your answer, I guess.
Okay.
My real question is how worried should we be about Duke?
Okay. Okay. I'll address that
The,
after the
I want
Kentucky
to I want
part.
to I want to preface this though. They're
Okay.
shooting 72% from the free throw line. You know how I feel about
hmm
free throws.
Yep.
They really only play an eight-man rotation.
Yep.
They're relying on 3 guys pretty heavily. 2 of the 3 are freshmen. I feel like we've seen this story before and it usually doesn't end well.
Yep. All right, so first with Kentucky, I completely think that they're going to be a national title contender. They actually can shoot threes, unlike most Kentucky teams
Yeah.
like Calipari. So,
Yeah.
and they go 10 deep. And if you watch the Duke Kentucky game, they said it probably 55 times that every starter on Kentucky was older than any starter on Duke. And that's basically their whole team. They're all transfers, they're all veterans. So they love playing for Mark Pope. It's very obvious. Everyone can shoot. I do think they're contender. But to your point with Duke, it is a classic Duke team. I just think the one classic part about this Duke team is it's not relying on a guy at skill level as like Philip Kowski or Proctor or somebody like that level where it's a really good player, but he's not like elite. Cooper Flag is everything so far that he was advertised. He's an absolute stud that Kentucky had to double team him all second half. It
Yeah.
was pretty incredible. But the thing about the rotation is, yes, it looks bad right now, but they have a 6'11 freshman that literally got cleared and he was able to play last night. They didn't play him at all. If he's able to play, that means that they don't have to play Cooper Flag at all at the 5, which I think really helps their team.
Yeah.
And it moves somebody like Mason Gillis down their rotation. So I think
Yeah.
I'm okay with what Duke's got right now. It's going to be a very tough beginning of the season, but as long as these cramps go away and the injury to the backup point guard isn't serious, I think they will be able to go 9 deep once that 6'11 guy gets in. So I'm not worried yet, but the early season, getting that guy in and just trying to figure out a rotation, they might stumble a few more times against the top level opponents.
Yeah. The other thing too, I'm glad you mentioned it. Cooper Flag's leading that team in assists.
Yeah.
3.3 assists a game. That's not a good sign. Uh
Yeah. Caleb Foster
maybe
needs to pick it up.
yeah,
So,
maybe whenever you said Flag moves into more of a guard role, because that's what they have him listed as,
mhm.
those numbers go up and that helps with the distribution. But that's not a good sign. And then you hit on something else. I don't want to talk too much about Duke, but we're going to talk a lot about Duke. Has anyone had a worse career arc in college basketball than Mason Gillis?
It's been an odd one, that's for sure.
Like he was like his sophomore year, he was like, this guy's gonna be a stud. Like you hated him if he wasn't on your team, but you loved him if he was. Then the
Uh-huh.
last 2 years at Purdue, like he was a ghost.
Mhm.
Now he shows up to Duke. You're like, oh, maybe there's something there. Like Duke wanted him. He stinks.
Yeah.
He stinks.
Yeah, and you can tell like Shire has no interest in his like him taking shots because they literally pulled him after he missed his only shot of the game last night. Like he is going to be out of a role if unless people get in foul trouble once that freshman's back. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
He, in my opinion, is the guy that's going to get like 12 to 15 minutes a game only to foul.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We need a foul and we need it to count. Gillis, you're
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Like,
When Malawatch went down with cramps last night and they had Cooper Flag and Mason Gillis playing the 4 and the 5, I was like, this is terrible. This is bad
yeah,
news
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so we'll move it on to the next segment here. One team that you didn't exactly have your eye on at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season that impressed early. Who's that?
I mean, I think it has to be Ohio State, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a good
at this
call.
point, I think it has to be Ohio State. They had the big win at Texas, then the very impressive win against Youngstown by almost 40. They're shooting nearly
Mhm.
50%
Yeah.
from the 3-point line. Like, you have to pay attention now to Ohio State, especially given that they're going to be going into Big Ten play in the next month. If not them, I'd love to know who.
All right, I'll give you one then here too, because we touched on them late in the podcast. I don't think we gave them enough time last pod. New Mexico. I'm going to go with them.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
now there's now 3-0, number one pace team in the nation. They're averaging 88 points per game, and that includes a game against UCLA, their big win, where they only scored 72, and that's because UCLA is one of the slowest teams in the nation. So
Yeah.
this team is an
Yeah.
absolute juggernaut on offense. So it's
Uh,
something for us to watch in the Mountain West.
this is I'm just gonna say it now because people are gonna think that we scripted this, but man, you just keep going back to the same teams. I have more to talk about in New Mexico at a later date.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, I'll go ahead with this other one with my least, or my most disappointing team so far. And I would also like to argue there is no other option but this, and it's Villanova, one of your squads. Another disappointing start to the season. This time
Yeah.
they're 2-2 with losses to Columbia and St. Joe's, and it's the same team. Like it's a different couple play. Eric Dixon's still there, but it's
Yeah.
him and Wugo Poplar for Miami, and that's it. They keep doing this thing where they only have two scores, and that's just never going to be good enough to beat obviously average teams because they lost two already, but especially not good teams. It's just going to be another disappointing year for Villanova.
Yeah. This is just everyone's public service announcement that for the next week and a half, take advantage of any line that you see on Villanova because they're Villanova. The books are hoping that you take them. That spread last night, 2 nights ago at this point, whatever,
Yeah,
should have been the most obvious sign that that
and it
was a
got me,
rat line.
and it got me.
Villanova on the road -3.5. Absolutely had no business being within that margin.
Yep, yep,
And I can't bring myself to bet against them. I can't bring
yeah,
myself to do it.
yeah. They got me completely on that one. So, all right, who's your team?
All right, so I've changed this to my pre-dead to me.
Okay,
Arkansas.
okay,
Like it
that's
has to be
interesting.
Arkansas. Like they're gonna be on TV a lot. Don't get me wrong.
Uh,
So like I feel like we're gonna be kind of forced to watch them, but like I don't know if I'm gonna care anymore.
yeah, I
Like
kind of
they
agree with
just
that.
look terrible.
Yeah,
It's the most Calipari team that doesn't have any of the Calipari talent. Like it's just
yeah,
it's gruesome to watch.
yeah,
They absolutely burned me too against Baylor. Like
yeah.
Baylor, young team, early in the season, I thought Calipari with the leadership, some of the senior players, they would take care of business. They stunk.
And that was with Baylor shooting like 20%
Oh
from
yeah.
three and 60% from the free throw line too.
Literally, that's maybe more concerning about Baylor. Because
Yeah,
that's two
uh-huh.
games in a row they did that. If
Yeah.
Calipari would have played the Zags, they'd have lost by 100.
That is so true. That game was ugly. It gave me no hope in the Arkansas Razorbacks
No,
moving
I
forward.
know.
So,
I felt like, oh, great. I gave out a future that's an absolute dud. Like, just throw that one in the trash.
uh-huh. All right, next one up here. Since we know we have a lot of people that live in Indiana that listen to the show, I thought we could go ahead and preview what's probably the biggest stretch of games for Purdue, probably
Yep.
the entire season. In the next 5 days, they have two games. Friday at home against number two, Alabama, and then Tuesday next week, November 19th, they play at Marquette. How do you think they fare in these
Yeah.
games?
Yeah. So shout out Bob. I already had my studio set up so that my worryometer was set
Okay.
to worried. That's a
Uh-huh.
7 on the scale, and it was strictly going to be on Purdue. Like
Okay.
they just I don't know. Like they've not played bad, but they've not played good either. Like they're letting bad teams kind of stick around. Like it
Yeah.
just too many close games against inferior opponents. I'm concerned. I'm worried. I'm not. It's going to be a big week for them to figure out where they're at. If they don't get shellacked by Alabama, I'll calm down.
Okay. Okay. So I have a different way I'm looking at this one.
Okay.
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 So I've obviously watched all three Purdue games. Their huge issue is rebounding, which you think well, that's really weird for Purdue. They've had Eden, they've had Harms, and all those tall guys, and they even have tall guys still on their team now. But I think that actually plays okay against these teams. Like Alabama, they're big, but it's at Purdue. I think that is actually a spot where it's very hard to win at. It's a Friday night. It's going to be electric there. I think that gives Purdue a chance to win this. It looks like Ken Palm only has a 2 point spread. And then I think they match up perfect against Marquette because Marquette is small and
Yeah.
there's offense and no defense. Purdue knows how to play that way. They're already more efficient at offense this year than Marquette is. I think that matchup's a lot better. Obviously, number two, Alabama's a tough matchup, but I think they really match up well against Marquette, and it's just so hard to go into Mackey Arena, especially on a Friday night early in the season. So I call me crazy, call me crazy. I'm going. They go 2-0 in this stretch.
2-0.
2-0.
Wow. If they, man, I feel like you said, okay, I don't want to spoil too much. That's fine. Okay. Yeah. Crazy.
Okay.
Crazy. Okay.
Move moving on to the last segment. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. All right. Two leans of the week. Last week we gave you some good leans. Let's do it again this one. Where's your first one?
All right. First one, we're going Friday night, Alabama at Purdue. Now you know why I said
Yep.
stop. Okay, so I'm heavily leaning under in this game, okay? These
Okay.
two teams last year were over machines. We probably talked to you
Mhm.
guys like we're dead in the face of how much these two teams went over. I think the books are going to try to pry on the casual fan here and make this total way too high. I'm talking 165 plus.
Okay.
Purdue was a much slower team this year.
Uh-huh.
284 on tempo. Alabama's still doing Alabama things.
Yep.
Those are big numbers.
Mhm.
All right. Big numbers. Purdue has scored big numbers. If you look at the history right now, their last three games, but those are against lackluster opponents. Okay.
Yep.
I
Mhm.
think this total should be way closer to like 157 and a half
Okay.
if we're really looking at it. So if it ends up anywhere in that 162 to 165, I'm definitely taking the under. You could make me nervous at 161 ish just because if we maybe Purdue picks up the speed with
Mhm.
Alabama, but again, I think it should be close to like 157 and a half if I'm handicapping the game.
Listeners, we have ourselves one hell of a handicap right now.
Do we
Literally,
really?
Ken Palm has us at 162. Like
Okay.
this,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. We need to clarify this because I did think of this earlier too. I do not have the Ken Palm fun app that
Uh-huh.
Clifton has here,
Yeah.
Kyle has. He gets the secret sauce. It's just fun
Yeah.
for me to figure out if I'm really
No.
a dummy or not.
No. And it doesn't actually give me the spread. It gives me a fan match where it
Yeah.
simulates the game like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So like I don't actually know what the spread will be. As obviously, if you listen to the last podcast, I said
Yeah.
the game would be around 140. It was 156 was the over under. So I like
Yeah.
that though. I do. I like that. Purdue, if I'm going to be right about Purdue winning that game, they can't get that game up in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
Well, and again, we're talking about something like if we want to talk actual real things that are pretty dead to me right now, I've never done a actual prop. Bama
mhm.
overs are almost pretty dead to me at this point. Like
Okay, they're
I
just too
think I've
jacked.
bet they're over four times now, like team
Mhm.
total and then like the game. It's only
Mhm.
hit one time. They never
Gotcha.
get close to the over ever.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'm going to take their under then in this game. So, all right, my first one here. I will keep it in another big time matchup on Friday night. Arizona to beat Wisconsin in Wisconsin. Um, Ken Palm has this as like a 3 point spread for Arizona. I'm okay with giving up to 5 points with Arizona. I know it's on the road, but
Yep.
we saw this Wisconsin team. It's very similar to last year's team, only they don't have Store, who there was their best player last year. And they get smoked in the spot every time. Last year, 2-6 against ranked teams. One of those wins was against a crappy UVA team, so that doesn't even count. They played this exact same spot, a home game against Tennessee. They lost by 10 at their home. They played Arizona last year and lost by 25. I think
Holy
Wisconsin
smokes.
gets way too much credit early in the season. I think Arizona's talent's so much better, and it's just a tempo that Wisconsin's not going to be used to playing. I think Arizona gets this win, and I'm willing to lay the points even though it's on the road.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, 100%. Was that's just like Wisconsin's like worst nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. Speed them up and too much
Yeah.
talent for them. All right, next one up. You want to go first in this one too?
Yeah. So I prefaced it earlier. We're gonna go
Uh-huh.
back to the well. Sunday noon. I
Okay.
gave you New Mexico last week,
Yep,
and I handicapped the fuck out of that
you
game.
did. You
I
certainly
got them
did.
again this week. New Mexico at St. John's. St. John's has the number next to their name. Again,
Yep.
people are going to see that number. Bet St. John's. I could see that number getting up to -5.5, -6 as far as the
Okay.
spread. Also, this is a big look ahead spot for St. John's. They got Baylor on the
Oh,
road for
yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Give me New Mexico, quality team. I proved they're a quality team last week when they took out UCLA. I'm going to take this one to the bank. New Mexico all the way.
And if they win this game, they better be ranked come
Oh,
Monday, and then it's all steam ahead for us with New Mexico.
oh
So
yeah. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's going to be all in on the Lobos. I am
Uh,
curious though. What's Ken Palm got this game at? Can you tell?
yes, it's got it at 84-75 St. John's, so they're having a huge spread
So
on
that's
this
like
one.
9.
Yeah.
Holy,
Yep.
if we get 9, I
Yep.
mean, also, I do want to say, if anyone doesn't know, fun fact for everyone, we're going to give you 5 seconds. Five, four, three, two, one. Who's the coach of St. John's?
That's what's his face, the vampire, right? Rick Pitino.
Yes. I was like,
Yes,
I don't know
yes.
who the Rick
Yeah,
Pitino. Yeah, it is
yeah.
Rick Pitino,
Yeah.
though.
If you listen to Dan Levitard show, you would know why I
Now
referenced
I know.
that.
Next
So,
time I reference him, I'm like, hey, well, the vampire.
yeah. I actually really like the over for New Mexico in that game. If we're going to get that in the low 70s, give me that because St. John's is never a slow team.
No,
So,
yeah. So I actually will tell you, I did think about taking the over. However, it would have appeared that New Mexico did kind of semi play to UCLA's
yeah,
pace. And I was
that's
starting
true.
to get a little concerned. I'm like, okay, they play up and down. What's that going to look like? So I feel like New Mexico might actually try to keep the pace at mediocre speeds because that's what they've done in the past. Is they try to make everyone play their style. Well, if you're going to play
Mhm.
up and down, that's what St. John's wants you to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to see. I gotta be honest, I haven't watched any of St. John's yet this year. Their tempo
They've
so far
played
is
they've played trash teams too. So
okay. Their tempo is 81st right now. Very efficient on both sides, but like you said, they're playing against crap opponents, so there's not much to take away from that one. All right, my pick here, and I'm really excited to watch this one. We've talked about both of these teams as kind of like a sleeper team for the season. I think Xavier beats Wake Forest at home on Saturday.
okay, I can get
I
behind that
really
one.
like this one. Ken Palm currently has this as the best game of Saturday, with Xavier only winning by 3. So I would love like a close to pick them here. And we've talked again, like these are both super teams. I think they're both tournament teams, but I think Fremantle and Xavier are just on a mission this year.
Mhm.
And really why I was swung because I like Wake Forest, but I think nobody really notices right now they're all ACC star Hunter Salas is in a huge shooting slump to start the season. 1 of 11 from 3 so far, and he has just as many turnovers as assists. So if he's not playing well, I don't like the Wake Forest team at all. And the way Xavier's playing in their offense, I just think this is a prime spot for them to kind of get noticed by people. It's
Yeah, I
Saturday, right in the middle of the day.
yeah.
So,
They have to win this game, I think, honestly, to be
mhm.
everything that I said they would be at the
Yep,
beginning of the year. This is like
yep,
a statement game of like, okay, they're for real. They're not just like the same old Xavier that's going to end up at 500.
yep, yep. I love it. And I can't wait to watch that game. I feel like that's going to be like the first Saturday noon game that I've really like booked out so far because I've been doing stuff on Saturdays, but I'll be sitting at home watching some TV on Saturday. So,
Nice.
all right, you got any other leans? Or are we going to call it at
That's
those two?
that's my two. I'm hammering those all day and twice on Sunday.
All right. Well, go check out our Twitter. At Mingo Made One is Jordan. I'm at Kyle Cliffy. We'll give you all of our picks. I'm going to get on a run. Trust me. Just buy into the process. It's been working in the past. It'll get back to there. And best of luck in your bets and good luck.
Love you guys.